Welcome to Lesson 2 in Unit 11, A Home for a Penguin. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how can we decide what materials to use for our habitat? In this lesson, students begin to investigate materials and their properties. Students figure out that matter is anything that takes up space and has weight. Matter can be solid or liquid. Properties of materials can be compared and used for specific purposes. Not all materials and their properties are useful for each purpose. Students make connections to the storyline by selecting common building materials based on how they will be used in animal habitats. There are several opportunities for ELA and math cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 11 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 5 days to complete. To begin the Engage, you'll display a picture of a sweater and a pile of rocks. Then ask students how they would describe the items to someone who couldn't see or touch them. You'll then have students pair share to brainstorm responses. You'll then ask students which is a better material, the sweater or the rocks, and why. You'll then discuss what students will need to know about the materials for their penguin habitats and revisit the driving question board. You'll add any new questions and highlight others connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to questions about types of materials. You can also post and discuss the materials vocabulary card. For the Explore portion, you'll prepare the activity by filling the 2-ounce containers from the kit with yellow paint. You'll also fill the cups with water. You'll show students the materials for the lesson and ask students if they know a word for the traits of materials. You can post the Properties vocabulary card. You'll then direct students to the Materials Properties Exploration student journal page and go through the row titles to make sure that the students understand what they are looking for. You'll put students into groups and give each group one bag of materials, a graphite stick, a cup of water, and a small bit of paint in a cup. Please note that students will reuse these materials in the Elaborate, so don't throw them away. You'll have students observe each material and record what they find on their journal page. For the Explain portion, you'll bring the class together and lead a discussion about students' observations from the investigation. You'll use the provided questions to guide your discussion around the question, how can we decide what materials to use for our habitat? The goal of this class discussion is to identify and compare material properties and types of matter. Students will continue the discussion into the Elaborate to identify how materials are used. You'll use the discussion to begin the Lesson 2 summary chart. By the end of the discussion, students should understand that we need materials that keep penguins cool. We might need some materials that are see-through so people can see the penguins in the exhibit. During the discussion, you'll read, What's the Matter in Mr. Whisker's Room? Be sure to use the Read Aloud Guide for discussion questions. You can also post and discuss the matter, solid, and liquid vocabulary cards. You'll also show students the images of solids and liquids. You'll then have students return to the Material Properties Exploration student journal page. In the bottom row, you'll have students work in pairs to identify or update if the materials from the Explore were solids or liquids. For the Elaborate portion, you'll show students a pencil and have them make initial observations. You'll then put students into 6 groups and pass out a pencil to each group as well as the materials from the Explore. You'll give students a minute to make observations between the materials and the pencil. You'll ask students how the pencil relates to the materials they investigated in the Explore. You'll have students work in their groups using the materials and the pencil to complete the Material Properties of a Pencil student journal page. You'll display and review the design goals from Lesson 1. You'll then have students observe the penguin zoo habitats And conclude the summary chart discussion by asking questions about what students need to include in their penguin habitat and how knowing what properties of materials help as they design their habitats. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students work individually to complete the Choosing the Best Material Quick Check student journal page. To support student sense-making across the unit, you'll orient them back to the driving question board. You'll ask students, what did we learn about how we decide what materials to use for our habitat, and what new questions do we have? By the end of this lesson, students will have made observations to describe and identify materials or matter by their observable properties, and related properties of a material to its functions and uses. In Lesson 3, students will investigate how materials and their properties can change in different temperatures. For the optional Extend, you can display the slide with solids and liquids and have students work in pairs to identify if the image on each slide is a solid or a liquid. You can then create a T-chart to sort the different states of matter. For more information about this unit, visit myscipartners.com.